And standing with me now is Mr. Swart, member of the African Christian Democratic Party. First, medium-term budget policy statement of the Government of National Unity. Your reflection, please.
Well, I think the Minister was very frank and honest about the very difficult financial outlook facing the government. And we saw that in the February's budget, and we see it again now. However, there's a total shift that's now taken place with the Government of National Unity, and we see a positive sentiment towards South Africa. We see that translated as well in this medium-term budget policy statement. And whilst growth levels aren't where we would like them to be, in fact, they are down from 1.3% to 1.1% now in this budget, we are trusting that with new ministers and with new initiatives, that economic growth, because that is the answer to all the challenges, economic growth will be translated much higher, and that will result in job creation to help the poorest of the poor in our country, and of course help collect revenues which will help balance the books. Obviously the ACDP is concerned about the escalating public debt levels. The present amount that is spent per year of 388 billion rand just to service the debt is the fastest growing item on the budget. It is unsustainable in the long term, and therefore we welcome the Minister's announcements to rein in that debt and to follow the fiscal consolidation path. One of the measures that is announced is 11 billion rand voluntary severance packages for public servants, and that will reduce the headcount in the public service and hopefully reduce the public sector wage bill, which takes a third of the total budget. The downside of that is, of course, one's got to be careful you don't lose experienced managers in the civil service. That we don't want to lose. So we've got to be careful how we manage that as well, of restructuring the civil service. We also, of course, welcome the positive sentiments that we see in the markets. We see the currency is strengthened. On Monday, we saw the Johannesburg Stock Exchange reach record levels. We see inflation is down. The interest rates are coming down. We believe it should be should be brought down much quicker by the Reserve Bank, because that will help our consumers, that will help bonds, mortgage bonds and car allowance, car funds that have to be paid. So there is a very positive sentiment coming from this medium-term budget policy statement. I don't think there's anything really new besides a focus on infrastructure expenditure, which is very important, as opposed to loaning money for consumption, for salaries. So we also welcome the fact of additional funds for Parliament. I'm sure you also agree with that. Obviously to rebuild Parliament, and of course for the Office of the Chief Justice. Being a long-standing member of the Justice Committee, we know the Office of the Chief Justice and the judiciary are really struggling. And therefore we welcome those additional amounts that are given to those very important legs of government. So all in all, we'll be looking at the details of the medium-term budget, and of course when the budget is presented in February, but in principle we think it is broadly acceptable in terms of the new Government of National Unity.
I spoke to a member from the UDM earlier who indicated his concerns that the budget projections seem to be focused on the previous administration's medium-term strategic framework. The medium-term development plan has not been established yet. What is your comment on that?
No, I think that's a very valid comment, and I think it will take time. Whilst we are not part of the Government of National Unity, it will take time for those policies to reach consensus between all the different parties in that, and that growth-enhancing policies, which are acceptable, will be incorporated into that framework. What I've said in the past is often the Minister of Finance would announce policies which he didn't have support in his own party. We are trusting where he announces policies that are growth enhancing and job creation enhancing, that those policies will now have political support across the coalition government to ensure that they are implemented. Because what we are seeing is some of the forecasts, for example, of economic growth aren't being achieved. And that is a bit of a concern to us, because if you're not achieving your projected economic growth and revenue projections, then it is a matter of concern. But I think it's a very valid concern, and it will take time for the GNU to work out the consensus needed to implement the policies that are required to take South Africa to new heights, and which we as the ACDP trust will occur. Because once the government lifts everyone, then we all will benefit from it, and we trust that it will succeed.
Mr. Swart, thank you very much for talking to us at Parliament.
Thank you so much.